Welcome to Golden Goal TV. Yes, European football might be on, but we are still on as well. So we will give you updates on the Europa League games going on. Well, the Arsenal one. We might even have a surprise if we're still here by half time. We'll see. But also we've got Premier League action to preview. So hopefully you can join us and chat along with the games. Let's go.
Kicking way to do so. It's him. Back to Balotelli. It runs for Aguero. They've done it!
Hazard still on the ground as Charlie Adam goes for goal here. Oh, and he scored!
And was by Stones. Andrew Townsend! A field of minutes. And Aaron Ramsey starts and ends an immaculate. Trying to find a way through.
Yes, we've got the Premier League preview show coming up with a small matter of Arsenal, Liverpool, and many other fixtures. Yes, well, I'm back after not being here on Monday. COVID seemed to have other plans, but hey-ho, these things happen. Let's get to a small panel, but panel nevertheless. So, we've got the Arsenal side covered of the game. Matt, on the producer, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a bit of fun yesterday in the rain with training, but which was eventually called off because someone decided to injure themselves. But apart from that, I'm fine. Rested, recovered, and looking forward to for tonight.
Yes, should be some good stuff. We will give you live score updates of the ongoing fixtures as well, so you shouldn't miss out on anything significant. And back on the show, haven't had you for a while. You've been hiding. Liverpool have been in poor form. Dan, welcome back.
Cheers. It's good to be back.
Yeah, well, we definitely chat Liverpool later in the show. Excuse me. Right. Let's kick off with the first game, though, on the card. And, well, you've got Bournemouth, who aren't really leaking anymore. They kind of, well, stopped leaking goals, but then they've not been scoring, Dan. I mean, and they face Leicester, who, well, have been given a boost by winning against in the Robin Hood Derby on Monday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult one for Bournemouth because I think Leicester are going to be coming into it sort of on that boost now that they might have a chance. But then Bournemouth at the minute seem to be a strange team because they're kind of hard to score against, but they don't score against you. But yeah, I'm thinking Leicester do have a chance. You know, they've got something to come off of. They've got a point to prove. And I still believe they want to back the manager, like in terms of the players. And I think they want to keep the sort of unit together. So I think they've got a point to prove and they'll go into this match ready to prove it.
So if you're going for a score prediction, what would you say?
I'm going to say 2-0 to Leicester.
That's an interesting one. Matt, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a difficult one to really tell. You don't know what teams you're going to get. You've still got, a Bournemouth team that don't really have a manager of sorts at the moment. So it's kind of difficult when you don't have a manager. You don't really know what the philosophy is. So, but at the same time, you've got a Leicester side that you can be mix and match. They can be terrible one week and then they can just turn up for half an hour against Nottingham Forest and score 3 goals. It's going to be a difficult one to call for certain. Can Bournemouth tame James Maddison? Because according to social media experts, he's been doing it all season. Doing that in air quotes for those that are listening.
I was going to say, I mean, believe what you will, but I'm blind and I didn't see James Maddison do this all season.
No, neither did I.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it's just making sure you're keeping James Maddison quiet, and then that's it. That Leicester team doesn't seem to show up unless Maddison is there, and then you'll get Vardy in with a couple of goals. So if Bournemouth can do that, it's at home. So for them, that's the important thing, getting points on the board. They are currently 13th. So it's another point on another 3 points that we'll be looking to get them a little bit higher, and it's halfway towards survival for them.
What would you do? If so, give us a score prediction of what you're going to go for.
I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think Leicester's going to nick a goal at the last minute or something.
Yeah, that I can see that, to be fair. It's one of these games where you look at it and you have, like you said, Bournemouth on one end who don't score, but neither do they leak goals either, which is something that puts them in a strange position. And when it comes to Leicester, I mean, all it takes is something from James Maddison, and Leicester will do it. But I don't think it's going to be a massive game. I'll be honest. I mean, it would be nice if we can get like a 2-2 thriller, but I think it's more likely to be 1-0, and I'm going to say that will go to Leicester. I'm going to give it 1-0 to Leicester City. I think it will be that goal, be that one goal that wins it, possibly. Or it could be 1-0 Bournemouth. I think that game's not going to be rich in goals, I'm afraid. I'm not expecting that. But stranger things have happened. You never know. When it comes to it, Brendan Rodgers' job is safe for a week at least, although I do think the owners seem to be backing him no matter what, because a lot of people would have had him sacked by the international break. That didn't happen. You now wonder whether he's going to be given until the World Cup starts, depending on form and results until that point. So it's a tricky one, but yeah, I do sort of think that all in all, Bournemouth, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Good, that result is what Brendan Rodgers needed. You feel if they lost against Forest, that would have been him gone, or would it? You never know. Bournemouth, on the other hand, still haven't got a manager. Quite a long time without a manager, to be fair. I wonder if they're kind of giving Gary O'Neill is his name, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
If they're trying to give him more of a chance, because at the moment, there's not really been massive links with new managers or potential managers. So it's an interesting one as to where that one is going, really, management-wise at the Vitality. So I have to wait and see what happens on that front too. Right. Moving on to the next game then. We're going to go to Chelsea versus Wolves. Now, you've got Chelsea on one hand under Harry Potter, won against AC Milan convincingly. We're extremely lucky against Palace, but that was covered probably on the show, on Monday's show. And then you got Wolves on the other hand, with no manager, you could say unsurprisingly, and linked to Julian Lopetegui, which is quite interesting. Matt?
Yeah, it's very odd considering that usually Wolves go for the Portuguese managers. You would have thought that maybe, I think we mentioned it on the Monday show, that maybe Nuno would have been one to bring back. He's not doing anything at the moment, but to go for Lopetegui, it's an interesting call. Something different as well. So maybe that's what they're looking for. Instead of going with the Portuguese, go with like a similar style of possession-based counter-attacking and go from there. It's just a case of when, maybe, because at the moment Sevilla are looking to try and get rid, not get rid. He's on the verge of being sacked there, and
I thought he was sacked last night.
I think he has been sacked.
I thought he was sacked after that Dortmund defeat last night.
Okay,
I think they've announced a replacement as well.
Have they? Jesus.
Yeah, Sampioli, is it?
Oh, is it someone else?
Yeah.
So if that is the case, if he has been sacked already, then it's maybe a case of time. You'd probably imagine that they'll make a statement either today or tomorrow. Maybe they might actually announce it in the stadium that they've got a new manager and he just won't be there he'll only be there to watch, and then he'll take over for their next game. From the game itself, I think Potter's weaving his magic, which is good to see. Even if it is against a rival club, he's doing what he needs to. He's got them believing in themselves again, which is even more important. And that's the most important thing at the moment, is just getting those points on board. And I think Chelsea are going to be winning that game at the moment. It is at Stamford Bridge as well, which is another important factor. Wolves have been struggling away at the moment as well. So I would imagine that Chelsea will win. It might be like another 2-0 win, if I'm honest. Maybe 3.
Yeah, possibly. Dan, what's your thoughts?
I think Wolves at the minute have been sort of form-wise, goal scoring. I think they've been in a bit of trouble. I think it makes it more interesting, the fact that they don't have sort of a permanent manager at the minute after the way they've started the season. Harry's not doing too bad at Chelsea. I think he can go and get the win, especially at home. I'd imagine Aubameyang will probably score against them. He seems to like scoring at the minute, which we knew that he could. And I'd imagine that, Wolves will go for a manager. I think they need to go more attacking, but I think their first target was Portuguese, so they were told they had to pay 20 million to get him in. So that could have something to do with it. But I think Wolves do need to play more of an attacking style. They're not scoring at the minute, but then historically they weren't sort of easy to score against. I think that's kind of not happened as much this season. They've been a bit easier. But yeah, I think I'd favour Chelsea to win 3-0. I think Wolves need to sort of reset under a new manager and go from there, really.
Yeah, I think it's a very true thing. Wolves at the moment, that not even hard to score against them. West Ham managed 2 goals against them. City managed 3, but then again, that was with the Wolves being down to 10. Wolves in general have not been the tough team to score against, but they have been struggling. But then again, I think they've got some injuries which aren't on their side as well. Potentially, I mean, with Lopetegui coming into us, that'll be interesting because I think he was considered before as a manager for Wolves. I know they were looking at him before. I think when Lopetegui was offered the Spain job, so when he took that, Wolves then kind of stopped inquiring. But we do know they were interested before, so it'll be interesting to see Lopetegui in the Premier League. It's a manager that a few years ago I did say it would be quite interesting to see in the Premier League. So it'd be an interesting one. As for Graham Potter's Chelsea, I mean, we did well against Milan. It has to be there. We've got an away clash with the next week, which I think is going to be on our minds, and I think that's not going to be as easy. So you do wonder which players will play, which players will get a rest. I think that's going to be worth keeping in mind. I think we could still beat Wolves. I don't think 3-0 is I don't know about 3-0, but I think 2-0 is probably a very decent result. Yes, Aubameyang's in a scoring form at the moment. How long that will last, I don't know, because I'm a skeptical supporter when Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is concerned. I wasn't sure on signing him, and I'm still not overly sure, but if he does the job and does what we paid him to do, which is score the goals, then I guess you can't really go wrong with that. Let's hope for once in the Chelsea game we will avoid discussion of referee errors and VAR decisions, although I highly doubt that, since most likely that is there. But yes, I think we need to carry on. We need to let the Milan win boost us a bit, and yes, we need to go from there and improve a bit. And give Potter time, because I've been looking at a lot of the fans' reactions after the Palace win. Okay, it probably was a win we didn't deserve, granted, but it was still a win. But a lot of fans were kind of saying, dark times are coming under Graham Potter, and I'm still not overly convinced just yet. Someone said we're out of the group stage probably, or in the Champions League. That's not necessarily going to be the case. I think we still have plenty of hope, as long as we get something out of Milan to put us in a good position against Salzburg. But yeah, when it comes in the league, I think Wolves are in a state where we can go for them. What they'll be like under the interim manager, whoever they currently have, will be interesting, but we have to make the most out of the opportunity we've got. And yes, and get at them and see if we can get some valuable points. Right. Before I move us on to the next game, have we got any comments?
No comments at the moment, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, well, if you're watching live, please join with the comments. Put your predictions for the games we're discussing, and your opinions on the teams involved. The next game, probably won't spend much time on, I'll be honest, but I will talk about it anyway. Dan. Well, we'll go to Dan first. City Southampton. I mean, I'm not going to bother asking if Haaland will score a hat-trick. There's no point asking that. But what I will ask at this stage, where Southampton aren't in a good place and Man City are scoring for fun, will we get a 9-0?
I think we'll get one from Southampton because they might not be in a good place, but they seem to like nicking a goal when you don't expect it. I'm not going to say a 9-0, but I'm going to put out a 5-1. I think it's going to be more of the same when we're talking about the human robot. But other than that, yeah, I could see possibly 3, maybe 4 goals from him, but I can see it being 5-1. Southampton will nick a goal somewhere in the game, but I think the results are predictable. The score of most of the goals is predictable, and Southampton seem to love conceding, and this seems to be the best opportunity they have to do what they love doing. So, yeah, 5-1, possibly 6.
Well, big scoreline there. Matt, what are you going for?
It's really hard, actually, because I'm just going through their last 5 fixtures, actually. So starting from Man United losing 1-0, beating Chelsea 2-1, losing to Wolves and Aston Villa 1-0, and then losing to Everton 2-1. So it is a really odd place that they are in, where they're losing, but they're losing by the odd goal. They're not losing badly. But when you have 11 internationals on your team, and you've got James Ward-Prowse scoring free kicks for fun, but he can't even seem to get into the England squad because Jordan Henderson's too busy playing backwards and sideways football.
Great player, Jordan Henderson, your favourite, I know.
I'm sure, Dan, you've got a different opinion on that, but it's just frustrating because the talent is there from Southampton. They've got a great squad, and it's just frustrating that they can't bring it all together. There's now opinions from the Saints fans that it's a matter of time. I know Darren from our WhatsApp group, he's been saying that he would love a manager with a little bit more passion on the sidelines. I think maybe I was thinking that if this was going to be his last year, then he would want to go out with a bang, but he's sort of just limping over the line again. And Southampton shouldn't be needing to do that. They need to be pushing for those European spaces like they used to do when they've got the talent to do it. It's just, it seems something's gone wrong along the way. So with that in mind, I think you could put down City 4, 5, 6. I don't know. Actually, that is another thing as well, is that Man City have been known to let in goals. Then they seem to have lost that solidarity that they had last season where they would win games like 4-0 or anything like that. So maybe that's because of Haaland coming in. But if I had to call one, I think it's going to be, it could be 6s and 7s again. I think I'll go for 6. Go for 6-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine anything else, really. Southampton are one of these teams where they seem to have picked up 3 points against Chelsea, but other than that, the results have simply not been much on their side, really. They're in one of these places which they've been in plenty of more times. And the difficulty about Hasenhüttl is the fact that he's been one of these managers that you sit there and you wonder how on earth he survived as long as he did. Because he survived 2 9-0s over his time at Southampton, one against Leicester, which probably was the more humiliating one, and one against Manchester United, again, which he survived. So you do wonder how he kept his job for that long. You do kind of wonder. People say he's limping over the line, but I mean, he survived a lot worse, it seems, but we'll have to see where Southampton will end up, I guess. You have to say, look at James Ward-Prowse. I don't know why he's not in the England squad, but if we got to talking about the England squad, we'll be here for a long time because it's a topic for another very long debate.
Because I think that would be a huge discussion. I think that would be about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think we'd spend a long time discussing the England squad, which, to be fair, I think we rightly would be with this. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, there's good players there in Southampton, but they need to show their quality. Because if Southampton goes, if the manager in Southampton goes, then you wonder who they're going to bring in. They have a habit of bringing managers that aren't heard of much in the Premier League, so it'd be quite interesting. But the situation is as it is for now. And when it comes to City, I mean, let's not lie. Southampton have stopped City before. Do I see it happening this time around? No, probably not, in all honesty. I think City are just free scoring. They can concede, though, so I will be generous and go for a 4-1 to Man City scoreline, I'm afraid. Still a loss, but I think that's probably the kindest result they're going to... Southampton can realistically hope for. Right. Next game, then. I will actually be in Brighton, not at the game, but I will be in Brighton when this is going on. Me and my friend, who is a Spurs fan, I seem to have picked a perfect weekend for this. Brighton Spurs match. So you've got Brighton, who had that massive thriller against Liverpool where they pulled out a 3-3 draw, and you've had Tottenham, who we've seen what happened with Tottenham.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you think again, similar sort of situation. Manager, oh no, they've got a new manager, haven't they? Now?
Yes.
So I think this is going to be another game where they're going to be up for it. It doesn't matter that it was at Anfield anymore. They're on home turf. They're going to want to. Essentially, this is third versus fourth. So if you want to talk about another team carry on that momentum and trying to break into Europe this season, Brighton are looking like a very surprising candidate. I know a lot of people wouldn't have said that at the start of the season, but just on their form at the moment, if they can carry it on, why not have a go and try and get into that top 7 spots? There's going to be a lot of opportunity throughout the season. Especially the problem is that Tottenham will probably want to bounce back after that defeat, and it'll be a case of will it be a bounce back from Son and Kane that are going to set up the goals, or is Brighton going to shut up shop and then try and score that 1-0? Last time they did play at the Amex, it was 2-0 to
I'm going to have to interrupt you there.
Oh.
We've got a goal for Arsenal against Bordeaux Glint. Arsenal lead 1-0, and he's on track for Tom. Tom's on track to lose the bet. Nketiah scores. It's 1-0 to Arsenal. Tom, I hope you're getting that a tattoo ready.
I can't remember what it was anymore.
I think so. Still, but sorry to interrupt you, but yes.
Well, it was perfect timing, really, because talking about Tottenham, it's going to be a hard one. I think, to be honest, Brighton fans have got something special this season. I think that's going to carry them. I think Brighton is going to win that one 2-1.
Oh, now that would be lovely. Dan, what do you think will happen?
Yeah, I don't think there's a team at the minute, if I'm being honest, that seems more up for it than Brighton. I think they just started the season really well. They carried it from last season as well. They ended quite well. They had that momentum, carried it on. And I just think it's a team that seems to be kind of really close together, sort of knows the strengths of each other. They've come in with the new manager and still shown that they've got it. I think they gave Liverpool a hard game. And I know Liverpool not on brilliant form at the minute, but I think Brighton, the fans carry them. It's the fact that they're really up for it. And I think they probably sort of wouldn't have thought maybe they'd finish that high, but maybe there's some belief in there now that there is a chance of Europe, and I think that might help to carry them a bit. And I actually wouldn't rule it out for them to finish in the top 7. But I think Tottenham, always unpredictable. To me, they always seem to be the team that should be good and could be good, but never quite are. And yeah, I'd favour Brighton, to be honest, for a 2-1.
Yeah, I think I have to say, I think because we went into the Liverpool game again that Brighton had. We went into that game as neutral supporters, kind of going, well, it'll be interesting to see what the new manager's like. No one's known anything about him, but Brighton, at least for that game, pulled everything out. They were really good. When it comes to Spurs, they need to bounce back. Nothing but a win will do for Tottenham, I think, in that game. Anything else? I mean, it's not going to be panic stations, far from, but still, it's one of these teams which, on paper, Tottenham should beat, but I'm saying on paper because they've had an amazing season so far. The Seagulls, and I will be there, well, in the city, so it'll be quite funny, I think, if it happens, because I'll be there with a Spurs fan. So let's go. Brighton 2-1. I think that can easily happen. In all honesty, I think it'll be hard. It'll be hard to expect because Brighton are good at shocking teams, and Spurs sometimes are very Spursy. I mean, I'd probably stretch to a 2-2 draw or a 3-2 win for Spurs. Maybe you can see that one of these three results, but I'm going to stick with 2-1 to Brighton, 2-1 to the Seagulls for that one. Right, next game then. Going to a London derby now. So on one side, we've got West Ham, who picked up a valuable win against Wolves, Dan. And then you've got Fulham, who, if not for the red card, you do wonder if they would have gotten as bad of a result as they did against Newcastle. But still, looks like Mitrovic, I don't know what happened with his injury, because I think he had to go off injured in the last game. So it'll be interesting to see if he starts. But West Ham, Fulham, how do you see this going?
Yeah, I see probably West Ham being the better side. I think it could be more of a tight game than you would have expected. I think if Mitrovic isn't there, that might create an issue for Fulham. But I think West Ham need to sort of get back onto it now. They haven't started the season well. They need some wins. I think they've, again, like I said earlier with Leicester, they've got a point to prove. They need to get back up the table, especially for them, where the last two seasons they finished in the European place, so they don't want to obviously drop too far. There's been a goal at Arsenal, by the way.
Yes, there has indeed. And it's 2-0.
Yep, Rob Holding has come up on
Holding scored.
Yeah.
Makes a difference in being sent off, eh? So yes, Arsenal lead Bordeaux Glint 2-0 in the 27th minute.
Well, there you go. But yeah, I think West Ham obviously they're after that sort of few points now, need to get back up the table. But at the same time, I'd say they've been inconsistent. I mean, even in the Conference League, you've watched them and they've conceded some goals or gone behind. And I think
they have
Fulham,
I believe they've got a perfect 100% winning record in there.
They have got the record, but I think it's just the gameplay's been a bit inconsistent. I mean, obviously, I'd say Fulham at the minute, other than the weekend, they've been in quite good form. I think West Ham could sort of either carry on how they were, but they could also go up from here. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as it sounds on paper, and I'm going to go for a 1-1.
1-1 between West Ham and Fulham. Interesting. Matt, where do you see this going?
Well, I was just looking it up, and it seems to be quite hard to actually find what's going on with the injury updates. I've had to have a look at a fan site for West Ham, and it's they were saying that Marco Silva has admitted there's injury doubts over Mitrovic, Kurzawa, and then you've also got Nathan Chalobah, who's out with the red card. So I think with that in mind, and the fact that West Ham winning their last game against Wolves, that's going to help them. They're playing in the Conference League at the moment. They beat Anderlecht 1-0 tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So the momentum's finally shifting at the moment. So I think West Ham's going to feel a lot more confident. I think that's going to be the difference. So I'll probably say, I don't think there's not going to be much in it. I think it's going to be like a 2-0 game for West Ham.
2-0 for West Ham. That's a good one. And it's what I'm going to go with actually myself. I think problem that Fulham have is going to be quite problematic as it was usual with them. If Mitrovic is not there, they don't seem the same team. Goals don't seem to come as often. And I think that's a huge problem for Fulham that they have not seemed to solve for me this season as with previous seasons. And if Mitrovic will be, in fact, still injured and will not play, well, you do wonder how easy Fulham will find that one. I think they might be able to score, but it's hard to imagine Fulham winning. But stranger things have happened. I will probably go for a 2-1 win to West Ham. I think Fulham might get a goal, but that's about it, really. I expect happening, to be fair. On that one, So yes, right. Moving on to the next game. A small matter of Matt. Arsenal versus Liverpool. You've got Arsenal, top of the league. Very well, doing convincingly on all fronts, it seems. And then you've got Liverpool, who having a shaky season. Champions League, they're not doing bad, but shaky season at the moment. Matt, how do you see your Arsenal doing in this game?
Again, it's a difficult one to call because you think at the same time, last week was a big test as well, considering that you're going into a derby, you're top of the league. That it was almost all the pressure's on, and then you go and beat your rivals 3-1 with pretty much without much of a issue apart from the penalty, which it was a bit of a letdown from Gabriel. But it's one of those things that I think Liverpool will look to exploit. It'll be similar to Arsenal. Arsenal will look at Liverpool's defence at the moment and the midfield, see what they can do and try and exploit Trent Alexander-Arnold, try and make sure he's on the back foot a little bit more. But this is a test for both sides, not just Liverpool need to get some points back on board to try and boost themselves up a little bit more. Okay, they were playing Rangers midweek and they won that pretty comfortably, but last season, this fixture was 2-0 to Liverpool, and it's a case of can Arsenal revert that again? I don't know. It's a difficult one to call. I think it depends on what teams both show up. If I'm honest, is it going to be the Liverpool that showed up against Brighton last week and got a draw, or is it going to be the Liverpool that are going to go out full throttle and try and actually cause more issues and try and close that defensive gap? And just on that alone, I think it could almost be another 3-3 if you're honest, or you could see like a 4-3 or something like that. It'll be one of those games, but I think I'll go for a 2-2 draw if I'm honest, because I can just see that both teams will have a defensive blip at one moment in the game, and that's what's gonna open the game up a little bit towards that end.
2-2 draw. Wow. Okay, off to the red corner then, or the other red corner, shall we say? Dan, I mean Liverpool, shaky game against Brighton, great win the Champions League, sure. Before the international break, Liverpool didn't play, so it's an interesting one. What's going to happen? What do you see Liverpool doing?
Yeah, I mean, the win against Rangers, it was a good win. I don't think Rangers were particularly brilliant. I think their goalie was good, but I don't think it proves that Liverpool back.
Their goalie saved them from an embarrassment.
Definitely. I don't think it proves Liverpool are back in the Premier League yet, though. That formation was interesting. I'd be interested to see if they use that or go back to their 4-3-3 against Arsenal. It's sort of, because I think Klopp was quite impressed with the way it worked. He said after one training session, he was surprised that it worked that well. So it's, again, do they go more attacking like that? I think there's a few questions. How will they defend? Will Trent be up for it? I think hopefully that result this week gave him a bit of a confidence boost. It's something he sort of needs. But I think it could go either way, to be honest, because I think Arsenal are in really good form. But if Liverpool turn up, then it could make it an interesting game. I think whatever happens, we're going to get a good game. It's just which side's going to benefit from it. And I think, to be completely honest, if Liverpool turn up, I could see it being a 3-3. But at the same time, if they don't, or if Arsenal don't, I could see it being a 3-1. So
I think that's the thing as well, is that over the past couple of seasons, it's gone one way or the other, hasn't it? It's always been either Liverpool won these games completely over the last couple of seasons. It's been Salah that's been scoring the goals, or it's been Mane, and then you've got like one season it will be like Arsenal go and win it like 2 goals or something like that. But it's one of those games, isn't it, that I don't think you could really call it, if you're honest, because one week they could turn up, the next week they couldn't, and this could be either sides. Imagine if both teams just didn't turn up and it's like a 3-3 draw at the end of it.
I mean, it'll
Yes.
be thrilling. I mean, you can't go. It'll be thrilling. It'll be exciting. So
We do have a viewer, so please let yourself be known in the comments. Say hello.
yes, pipe up. Say it. Tell us what you think. Arsenal, Liverpool. Put in your prediction. It's an interesting one. So you look at it. You look at this. I think it could be an interesting team because it's one of the big games. You'd think. It's not a bitter rivalry between Arsenal and Liverpool, but there's certainly something there with these two very big teams in the Premier League, and you do wonder what's going to happen. I mean, yes, I can easily see it being 3-1, 4-1 to Arsenal if Liverpool play as badly as they did at some points in the season. But you do wonder if Liverpool will turn up for this one, really, and you have to take into account which players will play as well on the Sunday. It'll be interesting to see. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 win to Arsenal. Just about. I think it's going to be a thriller. That's how I would like it to, because you'd like these games to be not only thrilling, but also you don't want them to be too one-sided, because then that makes them incredibly boring and it ruins the spectacle. So, yeah, I'll go 3-2 win to Arsenal for me, just about on that one. Right, we move on to the next game. Changed slightly time-wise. We've got a Sunday night game for the first time in a while, as we have. Let's see, Dan. We've got on one hand, we've got Everton, who have picked up a bit. I mean, they beat West Ham before the international break. Then they went and beat Southampton. So are they discovering a run of form under Lampard? And then you've got Man United, who need to shake off a minor defeat to Manchester City.
Yeah, that was it. Just a slight defeat there.
Yeah, just a slight 6-3. I mean, nothing major.
Yeah, it's not too big, is it? I don't know at the minute, because I think it's an interesting game, because they're two sort of teams that could give you anything at the minute. I think Everton, they're looking better under Lampard, but then they could go and concede and have a nightmare game. But then United could have a nightmare game, which they've had a few of them this season. They've had a few good results as well, obviously. We won't talk about one of them, but yeah, I think they've had a few nightmare games. I think they've always got the chance to sort of go and score goals against Everton, but Everton could surprise them. I think it's going to be quite an equal match, to be honest. I think maybe you'd be looking at sort of maybe United to slightly outplay them, but I don't think it's going to be sort of like any sort of runaway win or anything. I'm saying probably a 1-0 to United, but I think Everton will give them a run for their money.
Yes, so I mean that would be interesting, hey? Nothing too easy. Matt, what do you think?
I'm just looking back on these fixtures. Last time it was Everton won this one 1-0, and that sort of helped them along to
survive, didn't it? Yeah, just about safe.
Yeah.
A lot of the Everton fans are back on board now with Lampard, and they understand that this is going to be a process, and it's not just about getting those. They should get Austin trusting in, help them out with their defending problems. But honestly, again, it's another one where it depends on what team turns up for Everton. Is it going to be the Everton that we saw go and win against Southampton or West Ham in the last couple of weeks? Are they going to? They've got points from the board, which is the main point of view, but they need to be looking further up now. Can they get into that mid-table, or can they push on from there? And especially with how United are at the moment, very hot and very cold at the moment. Just some weeks they're winning games, some weeks they just can't seem to hit the barn door. Apparently, Ronaldo missed from 6 yards out tonight. So,
yeah, that was amusing. I have to say, great striker not able to score from 6 yards.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? Where I don't know what it is with United, but I don't know if he can if it's the players just not being able to I can't even think of how to say comprehend maybe what they're supposed to be doing, or maybe it's they just because some of them have been there for so long now. I think it's Phil Jones who hasn't even had a Premier League start for so long that he's in the under-21s now. That some of them need to be gone, and they haven't. And I think maybe this game's going to be one of those ones where, again, it could very well be an end-to-end or who's going to have the better of the chances. If I'm honest, I think I'm going to swing towards Everton, and I'll go with 2-1. I don't know what it is. It's just I think I have more faith that Everton will actually get the job done than Man United at the moment because of how United are.
Sticky toffee pudding to rule over the Lancashire Hotbot. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens, shall we? That will be interesting. It's a difficult fixture because on paper, you think Man United would have this covered. But you just don't know which United will turn up. You kind of thought Man United have discovered their mojo. They beat Arsenal, beat Liverpool, beat Leicester. You thought they were on it. You thought it was all brilliant. Then they faced Manchester City and, well, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, you could easily say both. They lost, which most teams lost to City, apart from Aston Villa, maybe. So it's one of these where no one knew really which way it was going to go. But United got humiliated, and what they really now need is a bounce back. And bounce back against a team like Everton, you'd think it could be easy, but you just never know. I personally struggle to see much between them teams, but if the right United turn up, it could be 3-1 to United. If the wrong United turn up, I still don't think they'll lose. But I wouldn't be surprised if it ends 1-1 between them two teams. And I think that's what I'm going to go for in the end, a 1-1 draw, because you just can't tell with these teams. But I think Man United losing is highly unlikely. Now I said that they will lose 1-0 probably, but hey, if I've jinxed United, I'm not exactly going to complain too much. I'll be honest. All right then. Before we finish, we'll see if our Arsenal correspondent will have time to join us. All will remain to be seen, because we're going to talk one more game, and this is Nottingham Forest versus Villa, Matt. So you've got Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, Monday Night Football. You think the fan base is going to be loud? They're going to be up for it to power their team on, because boy, do they need it after that Robin Hood Derby loss. Steve Cooper, the club said they're contemplating parting company. What this means is open to interpretation, in all honesty, because they've been contemplating it for a very long time, it seems, because there's still been no update on that. So whether Steve Cooper's gone or whether he'll be given more games is a different story. And then you've got Villa. Don't we know how to describe how Villa are doing, really? I mean, they drew with City before the international break. Then they can't remember who they played after that. And then they played quite one of the most boring 0-0 draws, where Leeds were down to 10 men for a lot of the game and Villa didn't capitalize on it. So where do you see this game going?
It's again, it's one of those. It's very odd that if you think about it, that you're looking at some of these teams and you're thinking, well, you're very hot and cold. We don't know what we're going to expect from you, and it's very unusual that you see in the Forest team who, when George was mentioning it on Monday night, he was saying that it was 18 players ended up leaving, but bearing in mind that a few of them were on loan, some of them were told that they weren't wanted anymore by Steve Cooper. Some of them ended up forcing out a move. It's an odd place, and I still stand by the fact that if none of them go to the World Cup, that squad will have a lot more time. That's about 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, where they can actually stick together, bond as a team, train a little bit more. They won't be constantly under a little bit more pressure. And it might be a case of can Steve Cooper at least try and get a few more points over that line before that. If not, then he's going to end up losing his job, and I think he knows that. Whereas it's a similar sort of situation with Gerrard. Gerrard at Villa, he's 1 minute. He seems to have. I still believe that he would have been better staying at Rangers, trying to get him that European Championship, and which just seemed to have not happened for him, which was a bit of a shame last season. But it's difficult now because Villa are in that situation again where I'm repeating myself, where they seem to have been found out and there is no plan B. And because there's no plan B, either it's because of injuries or because of ways being set up that they're not getting those games over the line. It's another Midlands derby, which is an interesting one. If you had to pull my leg and pick a winner, I would have to say I think. Honestly, I don't think I could. I'm actually really shocked. I'm actually saying that because I'd usually say, yeah, Aston Villa would win this one 2-0 or something like that, but I actually can't. If Forest can get something out of the game, I think they'll be happy. So I think I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly possible result in a way. Dan, where do you see it going?
I think Forest have done what Fulham did. I think it was Fulham. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was.
There's been a few of them around.
Actually, funny that Villa done it when they got promoted as well, though it worked a bit better for them because they stayed up.
Yeah, that is true. They did stay up. I think bringing that many players in doesn't work. I know they had a lot of players that left, but I think it's like they brought in 2 new squads basically worth of players, and you can't expect those players just to connect straight away. And I think we've sort of seen the impact of that. I don't think sacking Cooper at the moment changes anything, to be completely honest. I don't think that really fixes the issue right now. I think they need to, have some time, get to, train together and continue what they're doing. I think Gerrard, possibly more than Cooper, would be the one that I'd be looking into, because if you look at last season, they were in a similar position and they sacked Dean Smith after quite a decent season before that, to be fair. I think they were about mid-table. So how long do they give Gerrard? I don't personally know if it's working with Gerrard there. I'm not sure that I could say it is. I think it's going to be... I don't think it's going to be an eventful game. I think we're going to be looking towards probably a 0-0 or a 1-1. But obviously, I think Forest will make their decisions. Their owner doesn't seem to mind sacking managers, so I could see Cooper going if this carries on. But the interesting one, like I said, is how long does Gerrard get? And, there is no plan B. So where are they going to go from here? But yeah, it's going to be a good atmosphere. I think they'll be up for it on Monday night, but I'm going to have to go for a 0-0.
Yeah, you can... it's not going to be a thriller. It's not going to be a thriller in the Midlands, is it? Not the one you kind of saw in the Robin Hood derby between Leicester and Forest. I have to say, looking at Steve Cooper, you do wonder whether it's Steve Cooper that's the problem. I don't think it is. You look at this situation. Yeah, you probably could say that Forest did need to sign quite a few players, but did they need to sign this many? I'm not sure they did. Then you also look at the other factor. How many of these players are the players that Steve Cooper wanted, and how many of these players did the owners think, yes, let's get them? And, that has then created another problem in effect where these players need to gel together, and buying the amount of players that Forest did, you can't really expect them to gel together so quickly. And that's just the unfortunate part. I think you can see the initial reasoning for buying so many players. You're going to go, well, we need to upgrade the squad. It's Premier League, very different level from the Championship. Yes, that's true. But then the other problem is if the players don't gel together, you're basically heading for a catastrophe come the end of the season. Fulham have done it, and they spent over £100 million. And the season fell apart in very quick succession for them. Will it do that the same for Forest? It's an interesting one. As for sacking Steve Cooper, will that change much? I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, but you kind of think of giving Steve Cooper until after the World Cup. And I'll tell you for why, because you need to obviously look at how many players will go from Forest to international duty. Yes, that's fair enough. But that time away from the Premier League will maybe give Forest players time to train and gel together, at least the ones that don't have to represent their international countries. So could that be worth a try? It's a bit of a risk because by Christmas, they could be in an absolutely terrible position. Or come the end of the Christmas fixtures, they could be in an even worse position and require a Leicester-style lucky escape. So it's a risk, but would it be worth taking? And then you've got Villa, who you don't know what's going on with them. 1 minute they win, and the next minute they surprise City. Then after that they pull out a win. You never know which Villa are going to turn up, and you do wonder how long Steven Gerrard has got left. His name might not save him for much longer. Question is who comes in instead of him, and there is no plan B. The players he's got, he thought of them players, but they're not playing well together. They're not clicking, and that's still not happening. So he bought the players he hoped would click together, but they don't. You do wonder what's going to happen. I'm going to give this game to Villa, just about 1-0 to Aston Villa, I think. And yeah, anything else I think will be a 0-0. Realistically, it's going to be at the City ground, so maybe Forest might have the 12th man behind them, but they need more than a 12th man sometimes to make the other 11 gel together. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But we shall see what happens. It's a good, exciting weekend of Premier League action, and we will be there to review it next week. We see who we'll be doing it with, and we'll see if we'll be doing it on a Monday. We might be, and you might be getting live score updates, or if Dan's prediction goes true, you'll be getting nothing. So there we go. Any comments before we close out?
No comments. Our viewer has gone, didn't make themselves known, which is a bit of a shame. But if you are watching this back, please comment, please like, please subscribe. Everything helps.
Every little helps, to quote a certain company.
It sure does.
Well, we don't know if our Arsenal correspondent will have time to join us, but we will close out and see what happens anyway. Let's first of all say, Dan, have you got Twitter? I can't remember if I've asked you this on the podcast. Have you got Twitter?
I have, yeah. That took a while to think about. Yeah, I have.
Where can people find you if they want to, want to talk to you or something?
Yep. So the username is @_D Wainwright 10.
Okay, Matt. Where can people find you?
People can find me at MattLR28.
Fantastic. And you can find me on Twitter, whether it's Tech Rant or Football Rant, at Subsonics UK. That's at SUBSONIX UK. And of course, you could follow us at Golden Goal TV. You'll get loads of... You will not need score alerts. We've got you covered on Twitter. Just set notifications for us and you'll have it all there. You've got score alerts. You've got news. You've got, of course, tweets about these shows if you want to find out. So follow us. We've got a Facebook group where you can get involved and watch different highlights and different news stories and comment and discuss with other members. So please join in. We do have a WhatsApp group. If you are interested in joining that, give us a shout. We'll happily talk to you and get you added. And of course, you've got this channel. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Get them numbers up. And yes, smash that like button, please. And also, click the bell icon to receive the notifications when we go live next. There's plenty more to come. There's Premier League content. At some point, there will be European content. And of course, something called the World Cup coming up next month. So yes, plenty of action still to come. We didn't have time for our Arsenal correspondent, but they are winning 2-0 at halftime. So it'll be presumably that they will keep this result or even improve it. Now I said this, probably it'll be a probably shock collapse, but hopefully I've not jinxed the Gunners. We'll see you next week.